In this lesson, we will understand how to set up environment for CSS. For that, we will use VS Code. VS Code is Visual Studio Code, a source code editor developed by Microsoft for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. It is free and open source. So we will understand how to set up VS Code. Then we will set up CSS in it and run our first program. With that, we will also understand the syntax. Let's see. So in this lesson, at first we will see different methods to add CSS on a web page. We will see 3 methods. Then in the second step, we will see which method is the best and which one we will follow in this tutorial. After that, we will set the environment. To set the environment, first we will install VS Code, then we will set the environment on VS Code. That is how to create a new web page, how to add CSS to it. That is how to set CSS on VS Code. And in the end, we will understand the CSS syntax. So let's start with the first step. So using the following 3 methods, you can add CSS to a web page. The first one is Inline CSS. That means within the tags you can add the styles using the style attribute. Okay. So you can add multiple styles also. Let's say we added the text color blue. After the semicolon, we can also set the background color or the border. So this is what you can prefer. But generally, according to standards, this is not followed. This is slow. This will increase your page load time and is avoided. The second one is internal CSS and the third one is external CSS. Both these methods are generally followed. In the second method, that is internal CSS, the style element is used. So you can check whatever style we added here, we added under method 2 using the style element instead of the style attribute. So within the style element, this will come inside your head tag on a web page. We will see an example later. So we just added the style here. If you want to add multiple styles, let's say you want to style your h1 heading or body, add everything inside these tags. And then comes your third method, external CSS, in which we will create a external CSS file. Let's say we named it style.css. So what will happen? This style.css will have all the styles. For example, this style or background color, border, or any other style. After adding this separate file, under our actual HTML file, under the head tag, we will add this line that will have the link to this style.css. Okay, so this line can be used on each and every page of your website so that you can access the styles from this external CSS style.css file. So this is the syntax to use the link element. Under the head tag itself, use rel attribute and mention style sheet. Under href, that is, this is the place wherein you need to add the link. So within your system, within your server, you can add the style.css file. You can also name it mystyle.css. It's up to you what you want to name. So moving further, we will see both these examples. That is an example for method 2 and method 3. But for this tutorial, we will follow the method 2. Let's see which method we will follow. I just told you we will be following the method 2, in which we will use the style element. So all the styles will go here inside it. Let's say you want to style body tag, p tag, h1, h2 tags. You can mention all the styles here. Okay. The step 3. In this, we will set the CSS environment on VS Code. First, let us begin with installing VS Code. Let's see. Go to the web browser. I am using Chrome. You can use any web browser. On Google, type VS Code and press enter. Here is the official website code.visualstudio.com owned by Microsoft. Click on it. On clicking, it automatically detected that we are on Windows, so the version for Windows are visible. Click on this arrow. We will install for Windows. This stable version works for both Windows 10 as well as Windows 11. If you want VS Code for Mac, click here. If you want for Linux, you need to click here. Okay, any of these packages. The installation is quite simple. We will show for Windows here. Okay, so under the stable version for Windows x64-bit, click on the following. Now the download will start. Here it is. The download completed. Right click and click open. Minimize. Now the setup started. Click I accept the agreement and then click next. Now the destination location is to be selected. Okay, you can change the location from here if you want, but I'll keep as it is. It will only take 366 MB. Click next. Start menu folder. Click next, keep it as it is. If you want a desktop icon, you can select this. Select these two as well. That's it. I'll click next. Ready to install the summary, click install. The VS Code setup completed. When I'll click finish, it will automatically launch it because this is by default selected. But I'll prefer unchecking it and click finish. Now we have installed VS Code. I'll go to start now. Type VS Code and here it is. Click open to open it for the first time. We started VS Code for the first time. Guys, we saw the first step to install VS Code. Now we will set the environment on VS Code. We will also add CSS on a web page and understand the syntax and structure. Now under VS Code, click here. No folder opened. Click open folder, or you can also go to file and click open folder here. Okay, I'll click here. On the desktop, let us create a new folder. I'll name it CSS tutorial. On selecting, our folder is visible. Okay, now all our files will be inside it. To begin with, you can right click here. Okay, or you can also click here, new file. I'll click on new file. Add the first file. Let's say my first file will be index1.html, a basic HTML page. Okay. Now you would be wondering where we will run this. We will run it on a web browser. But for that we need extension. We need an extension. What is an extension? Extension is used to extend the functionality of a software. In this case, it will extend the functionality of our VS Code to include CSS. Okay, so I'll click here, extensions. Here I'll type open in browser. Click on the first one. Click install. We have installed it. Close it here. Okay, and also click here now. Now when you will right click here, it will open in default browser and open in other browsers. So after writing the code here for HTML and CSS, we can directly right click here and run it on a web browser. We have completed the third step to install VS Code and to set up CSS environment on it. Now we will see an example. We just created index1.html. Now we will use method 2, that means internal CSS we saw before, to add CSS. We will create an HTML web page and style it with CSS on VS Code. So we will follow this completely. Style tags will be added and within that the styles will be set. Let's see the example. So here is our index1.html. Now let us type the code, HTML part. Okay, we have written. This is our HTML. Under the head tag, we have added the style tags and the CSS styles will come here. And this is our body tag. First, let us set our body tag, for example. So I'll just type the P tag. This is the demo text. We can also mention an H1 heading. For example, let's say Studiopedia. That's it. Now under the style tag, I'll set a background color. Let's say blue. Then I'll also style P. Color, let's say I'll mention, let's say white color text. Font family I'll change. Let's say I'll set it to Times New Roman. We will understand this syntax later. Okay, and the font weight, that is bold. So here we have set the background color for the entire web page using the body tag, and for the P tag, this single line, we have set the text color, the font family and the font weight. Okay, when I'll run this, the things will be more clear. We have used internal CSS because we have used the style tag. This is what we will use in this tutorial. File, save all. Now right click, open in default browser. My default browser is Chrome. If you want to set other browsers, you can click below, but I'll always click on open in default browser. Now here you can see for our example, we have set the H1 heading Studiopedia, and this was set for our P tag. You can change it also. Let's say I'll set font size is equal to 25px. File, save all. You can right click and open in default browser, or you can also refresh it from here. Here it is, we have set the font also. In this way guys, you can use internal CSS. We have worked around the method 2. So guys, we saw how to work around method 2 and we added CSS on a web page with internal CSS. This was our first example, index1.html. Now we will also show you how to use external CSS to create an external style.css file. All those styles we added before, we will add it here in the style.css file, and we will link this style.css using the link element in our index2.html. Let us see the example. I'll create a new file, right click, new file, index2.html. Okay, let me take the code from here. Right click, copy, and right click, paste. Now I told you in external CSS we won't be adding this. Okay, let me remove this. Also remove this. Okay, now under head, what we will do, we will mention our link tag. Under link set, I told you the same format, rel is equal to style sheet. This is the standard, a syntax. under href, mention the name of the external file, but we don't have this file now. Now create, right click, click new file, style.css. Okay, we added it. And what about the styles in it? Okay, I'll show you directly from the first example. Right click, copy, and go to style.css and right click, paste. Okay, file, save all. Now what we did, we linked index 2 using the link element with style.css and added the styles here. This is how we added external CSS. Now the output of index 2 should be equivalent to index 1. Let's see. Right click, open in default browser. Now you can see that output of index 2 is similar to index 1. Okay, why? Because in index 1 we used internal CSS and under the style element we added the styles, but in index 2 we used the style.css external file. Okay, so in this way guys we can work on CSS. So this was our folder on the desktop and all the 3 files will be in that folder itself. Let's check. Here it is, CSS tutorial, and all the 3 files are in it. You can check the path also. Here is the path, you can check. So guys, we saw how we can use method 3 and add CSS on a web page with external CSS. We saw both the method 2 and method 3 examples. Now and let us understand the syntax. That means what we did just now. In CSS, we work on the term selector as well as declaration. We will discuss in coming lessons also about this in detail. The declaration includes your property and values. We just saw that we added background color to body element. Okay, so what was that? The background hyphen color was the property and the value we added blue, if you remember, was the value. Similarly, we also added font size, font weight to p element. These are predefined properties. Let's say font size here, font hyphen size here, background hyphen color here. These are all properties. Okay, and after the colon comes the value. This complete structure is called declaration in CSS, and we implemented it on the body tag. Let's say was our selector. Okay, so in this example you can see the body is our selector and whatever we added in it is called declaration. Similarly, the p tag is a selector and whatever we added in it is a declaration. And under the declaration we were having property color, font hyphen family, font hyphen weight, and the values were the following. Okay, in this way guys we can understand the CSS syntax. The same is shown here. The selector is the element. In our case it was body and p tag, and we added the property background hyphen color and font hyphen size with values blue and 14px respectively. The declaration blocks, as you can see above, are surrounded by curly braces. Okay, so this is the block, complete block, that includes your property and values. This is called declaration block. The element on the tag to be styled is called a selector. So the same is shown here in this example, in this figure. So guys, we saw different methods to add CSS on a web page. We saw 3 methods. After that, we also saw that our focus would be on method 2. We also saw an example of method 3 as well. After that, we have set the environment for CSS. First, we installed VS Code, and after that, we installed an extension to support HTML and CSS on VS Code. And in the end, we understood the syntax of CSS. Thank you for watching the video.